Welcome to Sunrise Life, the podcast where we have deep conversations with fellow traveling freelance models. Today I have Brennan Hill on the phone. Say hello.
Hello, and I'm waving, but you can't see it.
I am extremely excited to have you on the show. I, have known of you for way longer than up until the point where we finally met you in person. And I've always looked up to you ever since, obviously, you came out with the public blacklist that everybody in our industry seems to be aware of now. And I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. And you're so world traveled and you're so legit. Like, you've done commercial stuff. You've traveled to everywhere I could imagine traveling to, all different continents, different types of stuff. And you're just such an interesting human. And I'm happy to have you in the episode. But that took balls. I'm sorry to just bring up that. I associate your name with being outspoken about model safety. And I think that it's really important that people who have a lot of experience and who've been doing this for a long time should be a voice for that, because if we aren't, then who else is,
And especially, newer models, I did that not specifically to publicly out people, but more so just to start having these conversations and for it to be okay to have these conversations. And as a resource for newer models that aren't connected, because if I'm shooting with somebody, I can text you or 100 other models and be like, hey, is this person okay? Newer models don't have that. So I wanted something that was going to be publicly available and Googleable, and just to start, those conversations. It is funny now with people that are newer to the industry that don't know about it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, there was this period of a few years where I was kind of infamous for this thing that it took years to go away.
Yeah, and it costs you a lot of money to deal with, too, because one of the photographers on the list tried to sue you, right?
Correct. And it was a frivolous lawsuit. I was completely within my rights with what I did, but it was frivolous because it cost $50 to file a lawsuit. And it was thrown out, it didn't even make it to court. It was thrown out both times. But the sheer amount of time that I had to dedicate to that's what cost me the most money, was the loss of work with having to dedicate all the time to it.
Oh my God, that sounds like a massive headache. And I remember just what was this, around 2018 that this all happened?
No, it's almost been 10 years now.
Really? Has it been that long?
Been that long. Yeah.
Wow.
Floored the other day. It's been 9 years.
Wow. Okay. Dang. I guess that's why a lot of people that are modeling today haven't heard of that happening, because not everybody's been modeling for 9+ years.
Right, like us old hacks.
Right. Okay, well, I want to definitely get to the roots of the podcast, especially because I'm very curious about you as a model, and we can come back and talk about the blacklist some more too, but that's definitely something that I had to introduce you with, because it's part of why I respect you so much. But can you tell me, and people listening, how you first got into modeling and how your career has progressed to lead you to where you are now?
So when I did my first photo shoot when I was 8 for K-Mart, which aging myself now because I work with a nonprofit in my home state that offers workshops to troubled teenage girls. And that's the first thing that they always want to ask me is, what was your first photo shoot? And I'm like, you're not going to know what it was, but it was K-Mart.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and they just blink, stare at me. And I'm like, yeah, it was like an old school Target. So I've been modeling since I was 8, which, was now a long time ago. Modeled. So everybody in my family is tall. My sister's 5'11", my mom's 5'10", 5'11", my dad's 6'3". So I got signed as a teenager in Atlanta because they thought that I was going to get tall. And I peaked at the right old height of 5'6".
Sweet.
So you're right. So I got dropped, and then I modeled through college, a lot of freelance modeling, a lot of working for artists because this was pre-internet days. And then when I got a real job, air quotes, working in tech, I kept modeling just to use a different part of my brain, to do something creative, to do something that was not just staring, and the irony is that's what modeling is now, is just staring at our computers. But I did that. I kept modeling when I got a real job. And then when I got laid off from said real job, I was like, oh, well, I'll just go back and modeling full time for a little bit until I find something in my field. And that was 17 years.
Wow.
I've been full time for 17 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's been an interesting few years. And during COVID, people kept asking me like, oh, well, you're going to go back into tech. I'm like, can you imagine me going back into tech after almost 2 decades of living my own life and making my own schedule, which, for a lot of us, it just means we work all the time. The ability to up and go to Haiti or work with my nonprofit there, the ability to go cycle across Kenya. Like, there's not many other jobs that offer the flexibility to do that.
Yeah, I know. And I've thought about this too. I haven't really had like a majorly legit job, but if I did, then it would be hard to go back to it. And it certainly would be difficult for somebody like me to quit modeling and then work in an office afterwards. Like, it feels like torture, even just standing in somebody else's office. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't fathom. And I still love modeling. And I've always said, like, the second that I don't like modeling anymore, I am just going to walk away. But I still love modeling and the opportunities that it's afforded me. I've been incredibly lucky. Like, I was paid to fly to the Maldives and work in the Maldives for a few days.
That's kick-ass.
Right? Like, who has that opportunity? So I'm very fortunate. And I understand how privileged I am to be able to do what I do.
So with this amount of years that you've been modeling, you've probably had to deal with burnout. Am I right on that?
So one of the best things that I ever did was start working with grown in Haiti. And because it is something completely different than modeling. I'm in the middle of the Haitian jungle, planting trees, playing soccer with kids, no makeup, no shower. It's just something completely different than modeling. So whenever I do feel like I'm getting burnt out, I go to Haiti, that's not a normal response, I realize. But I've learned, again, doing this for so long, I've learned how to manage burnout really well. And I know when it's coming on, I think is the more important thing. Like, I can feel it coming and I'm like, oh, yeah, time to take a step back for a little bit.
That's good that you have the ability to, kind of manage your burnout with like some kind of I don't want to say balance, because I don't believe that life balance is a real thing. I think it's a myth.
Yeah.
But it seems like you have gotten a handle of when you're starting to feel like you're going to burn out, like shifting gears and doing the community work in Haiti.
And another thing that because after I did the Blacklist, back to that, I kind of thought that I was napalming my own career. I thought that I wouldn't work. I thought that nobody would hire me. Conversely, the opposite happened. So it was at about that time, and of course, I had been doing this for a long time at that point. I'm like, wait, why am I not taking more creative bullet shoots where I'm allowed to? Like, why am I just there balancing light? So I feel a little bit more free now to say, like, hey, what if we did this? Or what if we did that? Or how about, I like this, but let's tweak it. So in my cranky old age, I have gotten a lot, and my work has gotten infinitely better doing that too. So that's taking a little bit more creative control back has been really helpful managing burnout too. Because now I feel like I'm a contributing partner. I'm not just a mannequin bouncing light.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you repelled the types of photographers that, were obviously offended when you posted a Blacklist, and then you attracted like a more like-minded type of creative person into your life by the act of, posting that Blacklist.
Yeah, that was a completely unexpected side effect of that. I did not expect that.
Yeah, I can sort of relate. I haven't posted a public Blacklist like you have, but I do make little comedy skits that kind of make fun of like awkward photographer interactions.
So good. They're so good and they're so accurate.
I'm glad that you like them. Some people have definitely been offended by them.
Really?
But for the same amount of people that have been offended that said that they don't want to work with me anymore because of the skits that I've made, I have an equal amount of better photographers who are, more high quality creatives that have been attracted to want to work with me because they think that shit's funny, because they're not offended, because they don't have those attributes that the creepy photographers that I'm making fun of in the skits have.
Okay. There's two things to this. One, I'm floored that they're not finding this funny, but two, like, I would think that most of them that are like the people that you mock would lack the self-awareness to know that that's them.
No, maybe it's subconscious. Maybe they subconsciously think that I'm specifically making fun of them because they rubbed the baby oil on a model once, or, you know, they got a boner at a photo shoot or something like that. Like, you know, like, because those are like some of the skits that I've made are kind of making fun of that kind of stuff. And if somebody did that, then I could see them getting offended, you know?
I just think that a lot of times they're just so obtuse. Like the one you did the other day about, like, you know, oh my God, it's only been 3 minutes. Like, it feels like it's been an hour and I've been on the same backdrop for, like,
oh my God.
This is nothing. Like, I feel like you would think that they would just lack the self-awareness to know that that is what they're doing.
Yeah, you're right. And I don't know if anybody reached out to me about getting offended specifically about that one. But I do think I see a lot of people in the comments that with every skit that I post, they are like defending themselves. They're like, well, I always make sure to mix it up, and I always make sure that we're not getting bored. And I'm like, okay, that's good. I mean, this skit's not about you. I'm like, it's just about the people that are doing that, you know, I guess.
Yeah, I'm surprised that, well, and I guess it is, what we do is such a niche thing to, like, you know, outside of other models and photographers and creatives, like, nobody else is going to get those videos, right? It's just us.
Yeah, totally. I mean, but I think that it's part of, like, this, similarly to how you posted the Blacklist and you thought that it was career suicide. When I first started making those skits, like, I had been thinking about doing that for a long time. And when I finally started posting them, I was at this fuck it moment in my career where I was like, you know what? If people don't want to work with me anymore because I'm making these little jokey joke videos, then fuck it. Like, I'll find a new career. If this ruins my career, then fuck it. But it didn't.
Well, good. Please keep making them, because, like, every model I know just dies every time you post one because it's so accurate.
Thank you. I am forever encouraged by people like you who do appreciate them to come up with more new ideas and make it happen. So thank you.
Oh, we should get a bunch of us together on, like, a Zoom call and, like, roundtable ideas on what your next video could be and submit, like, requests.
I am always open to suggestions. If a few people have submitted ideas for concepts that I could recreate on their behalf. So yeah, anybody listening, shoot me a message if you have an idea and I'll recreate it for you.
Yes, I'm here for that.
Sweet. So your first photo shoot, you were 8 years old and it was for K-Mart. And so when you said that you were dropped because you only grew to be 5'6", it was because you were, like, being positioned to be considered for mainstream agency modeling. And then when you didn't grow to, 5'9" or whatever, were you disappointed?
Then, yes. I was devastated then because, at that point I had been modeling for 8 years already. And, like, this was the career trajectory that I kind of thought I was going to do. I am signed now. I've been signed with my current agency for 17 years. I'm signed as a commercial model, which is modeling for short people. But I am so seeing how back in the 90s, how abusive the modeling world was. And, at 16, just coming into it, when your agency suggests that you soak cotton balls in chicken broth and eat those to stay full. So it was actually, I was really disappointed then, but I cannot imagine continuing that. And then getting dropped because I got too old at 22. Like, it was poor. It's still toxic, let's be real. But it was really bad back in the day. So it was, worked out for the best. And, commercial gigs are more fun anyways. A lot of times it's just a job. But yeah, I was crushed when I didn't get taller. And I did have 2 agencies suggest to me, like, oh, well, just go get your legs broken. It'll take you about 36 months of repeatedly re-breaking your legs to make your legs grow to get you to the 5'8" mark.
Oh my God, are you serious? That's a thing?
Oh, yeah. That's a thing. It's still a thing.
What?
They break your legs like once a month or something. You're basically in treatment for a couple of years because the bone. Why am I just the scar tissue on your bones? I don't know why I'm brain farting about the word. Does make the leg longer by a few inches, and I'm like, no, that's going to be a no from me, boss.
Oh my God, people do that.
It's really common right now in Asia. I mean, it's still a thing here, but just the fact that it was so casually suggested to me at 16 that you go through 2 years of torture to maybe only have another 3 years left as a model.
Oh my God, that's so I've never heard of that. That's so fucked up.
Right? Yeah, like now, everybody's going to go down into a rabbit hole on Googling this. Sorry.
Oh my God. I mean, yeah, I've heard you could get like, surgery or whatever, but I kind of always thought that was a joke.
Well, unfortunately.
Holy shit. Fuck
when people ask me, like, I want to get my daughter into modeling, I'm like, no, you don't. You don't. You do not. It's horrible. And I've seen kids, I obviously can't name companies, but I've seen kids get hypothermia on set because they were too scared to say anything. It's brutal. Like working, agency work and freelance modeling work can be brutal too. Geez, some of the things that we've been put through. But yeah, it's a different expectation working with an agency.
Yeah. I mean, with freelancing, I feel that I've had to learn about like my own boundaries just through experience. Like for the temperature thing, like I know now that if it's going to be 40 and windy outside, that I'm going to suffer immensely and that I'm going to have to stick up for myself. And at the very minimum, just state that like 75% of the time, I'm going to be huddled up in a blanket in the car with the engine on, with the heat blasting, because I'm just not going to physically be able to get through a shoot like that. But when I started modeling, I did not have the ability I didn't have the knowledge that I was even allowed to set that boundary.
And, I think that's, models excluded. Like, I feel like that's every, late teenage, 20-year-old female's experience. I can't speak for males, and that's the one thing that I teach at the nonprofit that I work with is, learn to say no. Learn to set your boundaries. Feel okay setting those boundaries. Because I just don't feel like we use that reflex. It didn't become a reflexive action until we got older. Modeling certainly helped me with that. But yeah, I'm just getting cranky in my older age. Again, like I'm not doing it. Like, no. Like, oh, you want me to climb that freezing waterfall? No, not for me.
Yeah, understandable. So for the people out there, and I'm going to preface this by saying that before I became a full-time freelance model, I was still of the belief that you had to be signed to an agency, like doing runway and like doing commercial work in order to be viewed as legitimate. However, you have done a lot of both. You've done a lot of work through agencies and you've done a lot of freelance modeling. What advice could you give to an aspiring model that wants to get into modeling, that is of the belief that getting signed to an agency is going to be the proper pathway?
The best advice is not from me. The best advice came from my friend Christy Gabriel, who wrote a book, like literally wrote the book on that. So go download Christy Gabriel's book, The Self-Made Model. And she really just lays everything, like the entire groundwork and framework for how to do that without an agency and how to actually, like, I have scored big gigs outside of my agency, people that you've actually heard of. So it is not a linear, modeling is not a linear path. There's multiple ways to get to where you want to go.
That's legit. I love that. Especially today in like the social media landscape, right? Like it's like the possibilities are endless.
Yeah. Right. And it's funny. I was talking with another model that signed commercially the other day. We kind of missed the days where when we were going for a casting where we didn't have to put our social media clout on there. I missed the days when it was just like, hey, state your name, your height, and your agency, and that's it. Now it's how many Instagram followers do you have? How long have you been active on TikTok? So those things are becoming more important to clients.
Oh my God. Yeah, I understand why, but I am annoyed at that. I love TikTok, but I also hate it.
And that's me with all social media. It's such a love-hate relationship.
Yeah. So I have this part of my podcast I like to call the photo shoot fail of the week. And it's an opportunity for you to expose a crazy story in your modeling. And it could be whether the photographer themselves was crazy, or perhaps the situation surrounding your photo shoot was crazy. If you want, you can tell more than one story, but what is your photo shoot fail of the week?
There's so many.
You could tell more than one if you want.
The worst one that stands out is the photographer that shot me on a dairy farm in Ohio in August, literal knee deep in cow shit. And then refused to pay me.
Oh my God. What?
Right. And like, I know where he lives. Every time I'm like in that neighborhood, like I think about burning down his house.
Why did he refuse to pay you?
He just said, "Nah, I don't like anything that we shot."
Wait, what?
That's the worst one. And I've had some where like I've broken bones on shoots. That one still sticks out. My favorite story is I was shooting really secluded spot, had to hike, sunrise. It's freezing. So I'm taking, because it's a Bay Area, so I'm wrapped up in a little blanket. And these two little old ladies come walking by. It's obvious what we're doing. And they're like, "Oh, we're so sorry." I'm like, no, please just take a look around. I'm warming up here. But they were there for their 70th, one of them 70th birthday, and wanted to do a shoot like that themselves. I was like, that is amazing. Please do that. Please. Like, that is the best thing that's ever happened. And I've had it's been a while since I've had a bad experience, but like, I was at a shoot, was with Kira Grant in North Carolina, because that's all the models are from or live in North Carolina. And we were working with a photographer that we both have an established working relationship with. So we took us 4x4 out to a really, really remote location in the North Carolina mountains. Amazing. Then we go to leave and the car won't start. And of course, we have no cell signal. And Kira and I at first are being funny and like, taking nude selfies in the broken down car. And like, but then the sun starts to set. And we have a bear problem in that part. And like, we're in a soft-sided Jeep. We have enough water for a night. We can start a fire. Does anybody know where we are? No, because none of us thought at the time. This is like pre-Google location sharing. None of us thought at the time. I'm like, is anybody going to realize we're missing? No? Cool. We ended up trapped there for like 8 hours.
Oh my God.
Right. And finally got the car to start. Finally. And when the photographer dropped us off at our cars, because it was 4-wheel drive, we were like, look, we're just going to tuck and roll. Don't turn this thing off. You probably won't be able to get it restarted. Just wave by and drive home.
Oh my God. That is crazy.
But it was funny and cute. We were being funny and cute at first. Like, oh, let's take some pictures for our Patreon. Look at us. And then it's like, wait.
Wow. Well, I'm glad they got the car to start eventually.
Yeah, because it would have been a very, very, very long hike out the next day.
Oh my God. Yeah, with bears.
With bears, right. And we had snacks. Yeah, so there's one of those, and that's what's so cool about this job, is like there's never a dull moment.
True that. And the shoots where like nothing crazy happened, they don't really stick out in your memory as much because they were just fine. But there's a lot of interesting things that can happen.
Right. Like, I had a studio catch fire once. It's never a dull moment.
Oh my God. You had a studio catch fire once?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
This was like 12, 13 years ago. Yeah, something happened with one of the lights and, it just caught fire. Casual.
Oh my God. That's crazy.
And of course, I'm going to think of like 30 stories as soon as we get off the phone here to tell you. But yeah, it's always something. There's always something.
Oh my gosh. I want to take a short little break to tell you about Model Society.
ModelSociety.com is a website dedicated to featuring figurative fine art photography for models and photographers. What makes them different than other portfolio hosting websites is that some of those other websites will still host kind of tacky photography or exploitative photos. Model Society screens all of their contributors for quality and authenticity. So you only get the best of the best on there. If you're not a photographer or model, you can still enjoy and appreciate Model Society because they also have newsletters and magazines featuring their best work and new articles each week. Check it out, modelsociety.com. I will also include a link to Model Society in the show notes. All right, now back to our show.
I wanted to circle back to, I guess it wasn't like a crazy experience, but you said that some old people had like crossed your paths while you were doing a photo shoot, and one of them said they wanted to do a photo shoot like that. And that kind of stuff really inspires me. I think more old people should do like nude, creative photo shoots, and I hope that I will also be doing that when I am 70.
Me too. Like, absolutely. And I'm certainly not ever going into politics on here, but Elon Musk's mom, May Musk, is just absolute goals. She's an amazing model, and she's in her 70s, and she is just a workhorse and just incredible. So I aspire to be May Musk and still modeling in my 70s.
Cool. I see some people popping up on social media that are like elderly and they do like hot girl stuff and stuff like that. But, you know, I just hope that more and more, you know, like gilfs unite, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. But then, like, if we're all still, because like there's a few models that I've talked with, you know, recently-ish, where we've talked about, will we ever actually retire? Even when we air quote retire, will we actually never not model again? No. So we do all need to do, like, you know, every 10 years or so, I'll get together and like recreate some iconic nude pose and be nude and have a little retreat, tell us old school OG internet models.
I agree. And I think that getting together is important because, I don't know, like in my life, I do have friends outside of modeling, but the people that I connect with the most, I've met through freelance nude modeling. We just have a connection with each other because we have these things in common that are really like weird to the rest of the world, but they're really normal to us. Right.
So I use this analogy entirely too much, but when I worked with Gen Pop, you know, I can go to a mixed company dinner party and talk about my boss and deadlines and water cooler talk. What do I have to contribute to that now? Like, oh, I successfully negotiated the price of shaving my pubic hair. We're the only people that understand that and can be like, oh, yeah, you know, I had somebody offer me that last week. Like, it's totally normal.
Right. On that note, do you have a price for shaving your pubic hair?
Price is negotiable. It depends on how many shoots I have, what area I'm going to be in. This is the weirdest thing. Because if I get a bunch of requests to be short or bald in an area and then somebody wants to pay me to shave, that price is going to be a whole lot lower because I'm going to make it back with other shoots. So yeah, it's a really, really bizarre thing to try and explain to people that are not in this industry.
There's a lot of people that they will only have one pubic hairstyle and they will never take any, you know, like shaving or not shaving suggestions.
Right.
And I'm a little bit in the middle on that because I go back and forth between having a landing strip and then being completely shaved. But for some reason, it makes me feel very annoyed when somebody states that they have a preference.
Right. And to be fair, I've had this conversation with some other models. I have probably contributed to that because I am open to requests and I've been open to requests for 17 years now. There was a period where I would not shave whatsoever. You cannot pay me to. But now I'm like, it's going to be part of the image. Like, if you have a preference, that doesn't really bother me. But also, like, certainly don't say, like, I'm going to require you to... Like, I had one dude pop up recently, like, the night before the shoot. He's like, oh, yeah, I need you to shave. I'm like, oh, yeah, no, you need to pay me my cancellation fee because I'm not doing it.
Oh, my God.
Look,
Right, especially if you had a bunch of people that were already lined up to shoot with you and they were expecting you to have a certain look, and that look required you to have a certain, shaved, not shaved, bush, landing strip or whatever. Like if people are working with you because of that, and then somebody's like, "Oh, for this 2-hour shoot, I want you to just shave it all off," then you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're doing a disservice to all the other people that specifically hired you because of your bush or whatever, right?
Right. And honestly, I feel that way with, this is completely pivoting, I feel that way with my latex too. Like people that are hiring me for a 2-hour shoot that want me to haul all of my incredibly expensive latex there. Like you do realize that out of this 2-hour shoot, we're only going to be shooting for 30 minutes because I'm going to have to get in and out of this, and I have to lube up, and then I have to take it home and wash it. And it's just like, I just lost a whole day dealing with my latex and trying to pack it to travel for 2 hours.
Yeah, right. All the things that people don't really think about when you're setting up a shoot.
Right. Yeah, I had one dude that wanted me in like my head to toe full body suit latex. And I was like, we're going to need a vat of lube and an assistant to help me get this on. And we're only going to shoot this for like 15 minutes because it's going to take that long to get off and on.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And some of those outfits are like that. But I mean, that's part of it. Like, when you have the photos in the end, though, just the work that went into it.
Again, stuff that people just don't think about.
Yeah. But I would say that for most shoots that I do, most of the time I show up, and I'm sure that, you are the same, and most of us traveling freelance models is probably similar. We show up with our bag of outfits, get to the shoot, and we spread out our outfits. And we're, all right, what do you want to start with? Well, let's start with, the pink bikini or whatever. And then when it comes around to something like latex or something that's strappy, the photographer booked you for 2 hours. The question is, well, that looks complicated. How long is it going to take for you to put that on? And I'm like, well, do you like the look of it? Do you want to budget the extra 10 minutes that it takes to do all the straps or not,
Right? And even, putting on stockings can be pretty labor intensive. Like,
yeah.
Again, do you want to budget the 10 minutes, 15 minutes it might take me to put these on, make sure they're even, get the clasps, get the lines in the back straight. Like it's going to cut into your budget time. I'm happy to do it, but it's not like just throwing on a t-shirt.
Yeah. This is one of the reasons why for a couple of years, I just stopped offering 2-hour shoots as an option. I was just like, you know what? 3 minimum. You have to have at least 3 hours because I hate being rushed.
That's so funny. I did that too. I did half-day minimums. But then I ran into the problem where, throwing myself under the bus here, then I ran into the problem of there's a lot of people that I can't spend any more than 2 hours with.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So I would thought to, in most cities, I'll accept a 2-hour shoot.
Yeah. I started allowing 2-hour shoots again for, I guess on the other side of that spectrum, I feel like there's a lot of really nice artsy people that want to hire all the traveling models that come into town, but they can't hire for more than 2 hours. If they want to shoot 5 models a month or whatever, then their budget is only for around 2 hours per model, I suppose. So I guess it goes both ways. You don't want to spend too much time with somebody who's annoying, but some people can't afford, more than 2 hours, I guess. So,
right. And, just like everything else, modeling has gotten incredibly expensive for everybody. For us to get around, for photographers to be able to pay us, most of us have increased our rates. Yeah. And that's why I backed off on the half day. Another reason I backed off on the half day. It's like, man, and I've had 2-hour shoots where we got more done in those 2 hours where I got them done in a full day.
Yeah. I've had that too. It really just depends on how prepared everybody.
And there's a lot of people that I've worked with at this point 60, 70 times. And so we know how the other works, what we're going to do, what the workflow is like, how the other person operates. So we can accomplish in 2 hours what it would take 2 days to accomplish with somebody I didn't have a working relationship established.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So these days, what are you doing right now? Are you traveling actively right now?
Yeah, I've been on the road. I'm currently in Portland. I've been on the road for a month. I am on the road for another 2 months.
Heck yeah. Well, that's crazy. And just, booking as many shoots as you can, like through all these cities.
I'm trying. If anybody would like to hire me, I still have availability. I got caught in the California storms, which everybody's studios flooded, everybody canceled, everybody's cars. So I lost 3 weeks of work in California. Thank you, Mother. So yeah, I'm going back down and across the end of March. But my birthday was last week, and so we're doing my birthday here with all of my friends in Portland tomorrow. This is my childhood best friend lives like 5 blocks from Floofy. So me and a bunch of folks are going out tomorrow night.
That's kick-ass. I love Portland. You're just a few hours away from where I am right now, up here in Seattle.
Oh, how long are you in Seattle for?
Until the 27th of February.
Where's my emotional support calendar? Hold on. I get there on the 27th.
Well, we might be able to see each other on the 27th. I don't actually leave until the 29th, but I kind of reserved the previous day for packing my suitcase. But
right.
I can still meet up for coffee.
Or I can come hang out and provide support while you pack your suitcase, because I know what a beast that can be.
Sure. Yeah. If you've got availability, I love the opportunity to link up as we travel. I've got my camera with me too.
Yes. Well, and also you were like my first stop on the same trip that I did last year with a hot air balloon. Like that was just a perfect start to a trip.
Oh my God. Yeah. That was cool. Yeah. That was magic. I definitely will be going back to that field again with my RV.
Oh, and sorry, for those that did not see that, Chrissy and I were hanging out in Arizona. It was my first day on, my first proper day of the trip. And we're just sitting in her RV. We hear this weird noise and look out. And just about close enough for us to touch, this hot air balloon lands out front of the RV. It was amazing.
Heck yeah. Yep. And that's one of the real reasons why I love that spot is that rarely happens. They rarely land that close. But when they do, it's really cool.
And I'd never seen one that close before. I had no idea how large and loud they were.
Yeah. Yeah. It was pretty cool. That was magic.
Yeah. And it's stuff like that makes me love this job.
Yeah. Every day's different. Sometimes weird shit happens. Sometimes you have to run for your life. There's previously, my job before modeling was in food. I was a waitress and I worked in fast food. And, there's a little bit of camaraderie and stuff that you have with your coworkers. But beyond that, every day kind of is sort of the same, same complaints from customers, whatnot. And you go to the same location, you got the same boss, and there's power struggles. And being able to make your own schedule and be doing different stuff all the time and traveling is cool.
Right? But we are very privileged to be able to do what we do. I'm not arguing that.
Yeah. However, I will say though that there are some disadvantages. It's harder to have community and a home life because you're always gone, right?
Right. Yeah, and it's interesting dating again now that I'm kind of newishly single. It's interesting dating again, having to explain that I'm not from your city. I live on the road 9 months out of the year. Sorry, don't get attached. And it's just exhausting having to explain my job over and over again. I just need to print out a PDF template of here's the questions that you're going to have about my job. Please don't ask them again because I'm so tired of these questions.
So we're formally announcing that you're single and available with certain limitations of availability that people are going to have to take into account.
Also, I will go ahead and go on record before anything else happens. I don't date other creatives. The end. Do not ask me. Do not consider it. Do not think about it. It will not happen.
Right. And I can understand that as it might be complicated, but doesn't ruling out creatives also make it harder for them to understand, to be an understanding partner of your career?
I've never run into that. Yeah, that's never in my dating career ever been a problem. I tend to date a very specific kind of person. People that have the flexibility to travel with me, or that can take some time off to come with me on trips, or have equally enough busy lives that, like, so my ex and I, he was like, oh my God, this was when we were married. He's like, oh my God, I forgot to tell you, I'm cycling across Corsica next month. I'm like, oh, that's fine, because I'm backpacking across Morocco. So, like, I tend to date people that are not creatives, but really very similar lifestyles.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so that you have each other's understanding that, sometimes you're going to be out for a while.
Yeah, it was just really wild to me. Like, once everybody found out that I was getting divorced, that, like, all of these photographers came out of the woodwork to hit on me. I'm like, no, let's not. Don't do this. Don't do that.
Oh my God.
Really horribly awkward.
Yeah. So, announcement, people listening, if you're a photographer, you're off limits for Brennan. There you go.
Free fault. Because I'm going to hurt your feelings.
That's so funny. I have another question that I like to ask everybody on the show, and I don't think that I prepped you for this one, so it's going to be kind of blindsiding. So if it takes a second for you to come up with a response, that's totally fine. But I call it the rising phoenix era of your life. Can you describe a situation, and this could be related to your modeling or not, it just whatever you want to describe, where you were faced with a challenge that you had to overcome, whether it be a career shift or an insecurity? What's one of your life's biggest challenges that you've had to overcome?
So this, and it's probably just because I'm talking to you that this popped into my head. So when I got stretch marks in my early 20s, I thought I was done modeling. Like, I wouldn't wear bathing suits. As I have stretch marks on my breasts, on my stomach, and on my hips. I wouldn't wear bathing suits for years. This went on for like 3 or so years. And I was so insecure about that. So insecure. And I'm just like, oh my God, I'm just this. I look like a topographical map of, Eastern Europe. Like, gross. And getting over that took a lot of work. And I know that's something you can relate to as well.
Yes, I can relate to that.
It was a huge insecurity of mine. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then, like, dating and, like, a guy seeing me naked. I'm like, nobody's going to want to be with me. Nobody wants to see me at the pool. And it was just absurd looking back on it. But yeah, in that moment, I was devastated.
Can you state, if you're aware, like, what caused you to, like, overcome that insecurity?
Honestly, I think a lot of it was just age, because you're insecure about everything in your early 20s, right? Like,
yeah.
Oh my God, I wouldn't go to the grocery store if I had a vet.
Wow.
It was extra. So I think it was honestly just age that kind of got me over it. And then, as the years have progressed, because let's be real, I'm 42. As the years progressed, and with the advent of social media and whatnot, for better or for worse, but, then we started having, like, body positivity campaigns and things like that, which have helped further along the way. I wish we had those when I was 20.
Yeah.
But there's been more of a shift towards that gradually over the last 20 years, thankfully.
Yeah. And I'm also influenced by that as well. Like, people, like, supporting, like, various body shapes and sizes, like tall people, short people, heavier people, like people who've had, like, disfigurements from, like, accidents or, like, vitiligo or, like, amputated leg. When I see people who have, like, something really different about their appearance than what I'm used to seeing, I'm really inspired by that. I'm like, that's cool. And the stretch marks was one thing that I was like, you know what? It can be cool if you, like, embrace it. So mine appeared when I was around 14 because my hips and boobs grew with puberty, and apparently my skin is that poorly, like, I don't know, it's got to be in my DNA or my genes or something like that, but I didn't have any, like, major weight fluctuations or anything, and they just appeared through puberty with my hips growing.
I call them Mother Nature's free white lightning tattoos.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited that you brought that up as your rising phoenix moment, because I definitely align with that as well. Did you have, like, periods in your modeling where, like, you were worried about photographers judging you for having stretch marks or having to have conversations about whether or not to edit them out and stuff?
I in my booking, clause that I list, I list my tattoos, I list, where stretch marks are. And, I don't care if they edit them out or not. Like, that's a personal preference. I did have one photographer say, oh, this goes in the shoot doozy of what the fuckery. I had one photographer say to me, I almost smothered him to death, but he's like, wow, motherhood really did a number on your tits. I'm like, thanks, Gary. It was actually the cancer. And that.
Oh my God. Wait, okay. I'm pretty sure I know which Gary you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Because he says stuff like that. He says like really insensitive stuff like that.
And like, who says that? Like, what is wrong with you? Also, you are not a prime specimen of a human.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, he's also said to me, I was thoroughly done with him after a few days of shooting. And he said to me, he drove me so insane, I went and bought a pack of cigarettes. And he's like, wow, smoking is really bad for you. I'm like, so is being morbidly obese, Gary, yet here we are.
Right, like he has, or like anybody has the right to, tell you how to live your life or like pretend like they want to give you medical advice because they're supposedly concerned about you. Like, oh my God.
Yeah. I love that you knew exactly who it was too.
Yeah. I mean, like, there's definitely certain like characters of people and there's definitely specific people that get brought up over and over because of the insensitive things that they've said or done. And it's not necessarily like, oh, you're blacklisted. It's just that, okay, like, there's a lot of like behavior that isn't necessarily blacklistable behavior, but it's still like not behavior that you want to have to deal with. Like, comments about like, what's going on with your body or like what your decisions are or like what you're addicted to. Like, like that kind of stuff. If it's not like relevant to the photo shoot and it's kind of a personal thing, like I just wouldn't bring it up unless you like really feel like you're personally close enough with that person to talk about that kind of stuff.
I don't know about you, but me and several other models recently, we're all, a lot of us OG people are getting older. I don't know if you personally find it offensive, but me and several other models I've talked to find so what are you going to do when you retire? I find that comment wildly annoying. Don't ask me that.
Yeah. I do find it a little bit condescending because I think it implies that they think that we fucked up our life and that we don't know what we're doing. But like, if you're a full-time creative person and you're able to make a career off of getting your picture taken when you're under 5'9" and traveling the world and making a decent income off of it, I think that you can be creative enough to turn anything into a career if you put your mind to it.
Well, and also all of the soft skills, and you're one of the shining stars of this, but all of the soft skills that we have to acquire to do this job, marketing, branding, social media, all
photography,
right, all the things, we can parlay any of those into any field that we would like.
Yeah. It's one of those, if I want to, like at a certain point, I will like lean into another aspect that's a skill that I could, make money at or not. But right now, like what's really working is what I'm currently doing. And like, why would I try to fix something that's not broken?
Right, exactly.
I think the more that we travel, like the more times you go to a city, the more connections you build there, the more each of those cities kind of feels like home. And just even being able to work with the same people over and over again every time you come to town is special.
And it's wild that there are people that I've been working with for 20 years now. That's insane to me. And I'm with a friend of mine, I'm actually recreating one of my most iconic shots that I've ever done, easily my most popular photo I've ever done. But it was like 15 years ago. So for my 42nd birthday, this last month, we're going to actually recreate it with how I look now. So it's just been wild watching the progression of everybody's work, my body of work. And, working with and growing with these photographers as they've grown and started is just incredible watching that trajectory of, like, there's people that I was their first shoot with, and, like, now they're famous photographers.
That's awesome.
It is
wow.
super cool.
If you had to guess, what percentage of people getting into freelance modeling do it for more than 5 years?
Less than 5%.
Yeah. And then of those less than 5%, like the percentage of people who end up doing it full time like this, like not very many.
2%?
Is super niche.
2%? And I think, so the 5-year mark, I think is interesting because that's when shit gets real. Because at first, you struggle to get your name out there, but, you do some TF with some local photographers. Then you start gaining traction. Then you're fresh meat for a few years when everybody wants to shoot you because you're the shiny new thing. And then at about the 5-year mark, when everybody's shot you, now's when it gets hard and you have to actively start seeking work out. You have to actively network. People are no longer chomping at the bit to work with you because I've already shot you 3 times. Yeah, there's another shiny new thing around. This is when you have to lean on the relationships that you've developed. So after 5 years, the 5 to 7 year mark is when most models, I think, quit. Just because it gets hard.
Yeah. But if you are able to build up your name enough within the first, 5 to 7 years, then you become like, I kind of like to compare it to being like a baseball card, like people collect baseball cards, like, well, I have to add this one to my portfolio and I got to catch them all, right? Like Pokemon. We are like Pokemons traveling around and photographers are collecting pictures of us to add to their portfolio. So after 5 to 7 years, you become one of those baseball card Pokemon model.
Yep, exactly. Yeah,
But then after like 10, 15 plus years, then what? Then you're already in all these portfolios. And then when photographers that you haven't worked with yet are looking at working with you, they say, oh, what can I shoot with you that you already haven't done 5,000 times? And you're like, there's not very many ideas. And if you come up with a weird enough idea, I might actually be repulsed by it.
You're right.
And I'm saying that because I've had some weird shoots that were so weird because the photographer was trying to come up with something outside the box. And I don't know, like the one that I'm thinking of, this photographer like really wanted to shoot something that I'd never done before. So his idea, and I'm sorry if you're listening to this, man, but like, we didn't pull it off. And I hope that you're not offended, but he wanted to do a clown glory hole where he painted my face like a clown and he made a little glory hole out of like a piece of cardboard. Like, so it looked like I was, like a horror clown. And then there's like a balloon dick and balls that would come through the hole in the wall. And I was like, I'm not putting this in my portfolio.
Oh my God, I'm crying.
Yeah, it was very creative. I'll give him that. And It's not that I didn't enjoy, but I was like, do you want me to suck on the balloon dick? Because I'm not going to do it. Yeah.
And I've, again, been doing this so long. Like, I actually appreciate the weird ideas now because I'm like, okay, let's see if we can actually pull this off and make this work because this is insane. And I love it. So I am, if you have a weird thing, I am here for it, provided it's not your actual fetish or something like gross.
That's a good clause. Right. Like if you really had a thing for like, I don't know, toenail clippings or whatever. Like, I don't know. Like,
no.
Yeah. When we get into fetish modeling, like that's just a whole other can of worms, Like, have you done that? Like,
that should be a whole other podcast.
It could be. Every time I end up talking about fetish modeling, like we go on and on because... Yeah, I mean, that's where it gets really entertaining,
That's where it gets real weird real fast.
Yeah, it can get real weird real fast. But I will say that some of the fetish shoots that I've had have been some of the most fantastic and interesting experiences, where other fetish shoots that I've had have been some of the most, like, fucked up experiences, so.
I should extremely limited fetish because, I have to keep the persona clean for commercial work. Some of my best experiences have been fetish shoots. Like, if they're insane, it's always comedic. Like, it's usually, like, the teams that I work with, which are very few, are just hysterical. Like, we have an absolute blast doing this. It's absurd.
Balloon popping.
Right.
Right. How could you not have fun doing that, Yes.
Pretending to be hypnotized, just cleaning somebody's house fully clothed.
Yeah. Yep, I've done that. And then obviously the messy ones where you get into a pie fight and whatnot. That's fun.
No.
No? Okay.
No. No. My favorite was when somebody asked me, it was a custom request. Somebody asked me and one of my best friends to pretend to be hypnotized and act like chickens, which took us entirely too long to shoot because we're laughing so hard because we're just walking around my living room floor like,
Oh my God.
it was so much editing. So much editing because it's just absurd.
That's funny. Yeah. Yeah. Good times.
Be a model.
I should do more fetish modeling now that I'm talking about it. It sounds, but so many people hear the word fetish and they assume that it means some kind of a weird hardcore porn thing, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's been an interesting topic of conversation, like with my family and friends that are not in the industry. My mother, my poor mom, God bless her, she's a saint. But she found out that manure fetish was a thing the other day and almost lost her mind. I was like, yes, mother, there's a fetish for everything. And if you spent one day in my inbox, you would be horrified.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you've ever been on the website Clips for Sale, I find it very fascinating to just go to the categories drop-down menu and scroll down and alphabetically read all the new categories that are always popping up. I haven't gone recently to look, but they always had new categories that I'm like, what is the Sharpies fetish? Like, what is that? Sharpie markers? Like,
There's a fetish for Sharpies?
yeah.
What?
I know, right? Anything that you can think of, and there's a fetish category on Clips for Sale for it.
Wow. Okay, even the Sharpie one's new on me. I used my mother the other day, puffy jacket fetish. Right?
Puffy jacket, yeah, that sounds amazing. I would love to sign up for that.
Like, I literally just get to wear a puffy jacket and roll around in the bed in my puffy jacket. It's great.
Eating in the car.
Washing your hair.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, some of them can be fun, like I used to go to Fetish Con. I want to go back one of these days because it's interesting, but yeah, just a whole, we said we weren't going to get into it, but then we totally got into it, right? Yeah. It can be weird, but it can be funny weird, not necessarily bad weird.
And also, like, these are the beginning part of our conversation is the conversations that new models have. Like, I don't ever remember asking a model, like, how you got started or how you got into this. But we can all sit around and war story about what fetish did you get asked to shoot this week. So for those listening, this is how we actually talk when we're together.
Yep. Yes, and that's one of the main reasons why this podcast was originally formed. I was in like a Instagram group chat with like 50 other models. And I think we were just chatting about references and safety and giving each other ideas and whatnot. And, funny stories will pop up like that. And one person was like, we have so many like unique experiences. There has to be a podcast where we can just talk about this crazy shit. And that's why I was like, I've been wanting to start a podcast. And that's how this podcast came to be.
I'm in full support of this. And like you kind of mentioned, so I was dating this guy, Gen Pop, right? I had a really bad shoot experience in Utah. And this was years ago. And I spent like 2 hours flying home the airport trying to explain to him what happened. And I had another model living with me at the time. And I walked in the door and she's like, how was your trip? And I just said homeboy's name. And she was like, oh, shit. She knew instantly. And like, there's the camaraderie in that. And just like, oh, thank God I didn't have to explain why my trip was so awful to anybody because you get it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why it's important for us to get together even after we, air quote, retire from modeling. We can shoot each other and, talk about our crazy stories together.
Because we got some doozies. Yeah, I'm kind of upset that I didn't think about that in advance and like plan out my terrible shoots. But yeah, I'll wing it. That's what I do with my entire life.
Yeah. So, interestingly, most people that are on the podcast, maybe not most, maybe about at least 50%, they don't want to tell like a bad experience story on the podcast because they feel like sharing that information might make them, like their brand, look less friendly to photographers who might want to hire them. And I can understand that, like not wanting to tell like something that was like fucked up crazy that happened at a shoot. So a lot of people try to tell the funny stories or like the weird situation stories, but there's often so many times that I finish recording and then as soon as I'm done, they'll tell me like the most fucked up story ever. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. But they didn't want to air it live.
Oh, well, I went full in with mine and I hope he hears this.
Yeah, way to go. I mean, like, I wouldn't expect any less of you because you're also the model that posted the Blacklist a few years back. And so you give no fucks.
I am queen of kicking a hornet's nest if there was a hornet's nest to be kicked.
Yeah. And there's a freedom in that, because people who are going to try to push your limits or whatever, they're repelled by that kind of behavior.
So this was really fascinating to me. So photographer that I have worked with a whole bunch, he's local to me. It was like 6 months after I published the Blacklist. So we spent, of our 3-hour shoot, which this happened with most of my shoots, we spent the first 2 hours talking about the Blacklist and all the fallout and everything that happened. So I was getting like 2,000 messages an hour for about 2 years. Yeah, it was just like my best friend that I'm here with now asked me, she's like, how are you responding to all of these messages? I'm like, how can I not? Because like these are women that have been raped that are like, I just found, my voice to be able to speak up after seeing this. And like, how can I not? How can I not? So anyways, we spent the first 2 hours of our 3-hour shoot talking about Blacklists and he was very in support of it. And so then we shooting the last hour and I'm posing on my back, how we do, we're arched, we're in a hotel bed. A pose we've all done 10 billion times. This dude walks up to me and runs his finger down my sternum and says, this is my favorite part of you. And I'm like, we just spent 2 hours talking about how people like that do this inappropriate. What is wrong with you? What? So it didn't cure all problems for me. And, as years have gone on and people have kind of forgotten, I'm also like team, like, I'm not taking your shit. I will get up and walk off set. And I walked out of a lot of shoots this last year by being completely...
Wow. So was he just completely lacking self-awareness or was he intentionally trying to push your buttons?
I have no idea because I left. I was like, we're done here. Can I have my money? I'm leaving.
Whoa.
And it was just like, if we hadn't have spent the first 2 hours discussing this, it would have been one thing. Like, I could have just corrected him and been like, yo, this is not a hands-on sport. Don't touch me. But the fact that we just spent 2 hours talking about it was just wild.
Yeah, like model photography 101, rule number 1, page 1. Don't touch the models.
Don't let me. Right.
There's no, like, limit that's not more obvious than that. Like, you don't do it.
I had a photographer once, this was years ago in New Jersey, walk up to me and just twist my hips. It was like, whoa, do not touch me. It's like, if you need me to move, tell me how to move. And he was actually like horrified and appalled. I don't know if this is real, if it was fake on his end, but he's like, I'm so sorry. I just work with so many new models that don't know. I'm like, don't touch them either. Like, turn your hips to the right. Takes a whole lot less time to say than getting up and walking over and touching me. Don't do it.
Yeah. It's hard to imagine, like, the audacity. Like, how can you not realize that that's very uncomfortable?
Especially when the power dynamic is there. Like, you're employing us. You're likely larger than us. We're likely in a space that we don't know. That power dynamic is already off. I don't need you to untwist my bra strap. I mean, my bra strap wouldn't be twisted because I've been doing this for 17 years, but you're right. You could just tell the new model, like, oh, there's a strand of hair out of place or your bra strap's twisted, or fill in the blank.
Yeah, right. But I think some of these people, like photographers that are doing this kind of stuff, maybe their thought of themselves is that, oh, I'm not one of the bad guys, so it's okay if I come up and, like, touch her hair or, like, adjust her clothing because I don't have poor intentions. But, you're still touching them without consent. That's still crossing the line.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And photographer, I just had dinner with him recently that I'm friends with. We were shooting last year. I think it was last year. And he kept trying to tell me to do something with my foot. I'm fully clothed. I'm in a park. I have boots on. And I'm like, I don't know what you're asking me to do. Just put my foot right on it. And he's like, no, I can't. And I'm like, no, really. So we got in this like 10-minute long lover spat about just put my foot where you want it. I'm telling you, you want me to record consent of put my foot where.
Yeah, I can see. Okay, I've had a similar interaction too, where there's times where you're obviously very comfortable with like something like that if it makes sense, especially, you know, for me, like when I'm in some weird upside down pose and a piece of hair looks like it's giving me a mustache and I can't get it off my face because I need my hands to balance. You know, it's obvious that I can be like, okay, can you get my hair, you know, like.
Yeah.
So there's some times where it's obvious, but there's a lot of times where people are definitely trying to cop a feel slightly, or you just be up in your business and like in your personal bubble when it's unwarranted.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Totally. Well, Brennan, we've had such a fantastic conversation. If you have anything that you would like to plug before we get off the show, I'd like to give you the opportunity to do that.
Yes. So I'm looking at my emotional support calendar right now. I am still booking through April, Arizona, Nevada, Southern California, Northern California, Portland, Seattle, and a very, very, very rare appearance in New Mexico, which happens like once every 8 years. So reach out. I'm sure that you'll post my socials.
Yes, I will. I definitely will. And then I'll make a little snippet that's tagging you also when the episode comes out.
Yes, excellent. And hopefully see you in Seattle.
Yeah, definitely. The 27th or 28th, I'll make some time available.
Sweet. I will text you.
Heck yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much, Brennan. It's been really fantastic doing the episode with you. And everybody give Brennan a follow. And if you're a photographer, book her.
Yes. Thank you so much, Levis. This has been great.
Yeah, totally. All right. Talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.